Hi everybody, it's Hannah. Today I'm talking about Comme Garçons Incense series, and in particular I'm going to be talking about Jaiselmer, which is my bottle, and then I have a little decant of Avignon that a friend of mine sent me, and there's like a tiny little bit left in it because I went through it so quickly. I feel like incense perfumes are having a bit of a moment, and I don't know why that is. I think people are going back into the office, and so if you were working at home, you were probably wearing whatever you wanted to wear, and you could wear a lot of it. And then now that people are back into the real world, they're taking public transit or they're working inside an office and not just a home office, I feel like wearing an incense perfume it's a little bit more acceptable. It's not as, you're not calling attention to yourself as much because people might smell it and think it's the environment and not necessarily that it is somebody's perfume. And so hopefully I think people are maybe hoping to not be as offensive if there are people around them that are allergic or sensitive or just don't like strong perfumes. And I know some people, from what I've heard, some people like to wear musky perfumes, like soapy scents in offices and to work and stuff. And I feel like this is like the next best thing. This is like a level up where you can smell something that's a little bit more interesting than a clean musk, but still not like an in-your-face perfume. Like there's no civet or anything animalic usually, and it's just pleasant. There's nothing sweet usually. So I don't know. I've seen a lot of people try to find the best incense perfume or, the easiest to wear incense perfume, and Avignon definitely makes the list whenever there are incense perfumes. I feel like it's probably the most talked about, and because it's the most talked about, people try it the most, and because people try it the most, then it again ends up being talked about and it ends up on all the lists. I also think these bottles are cute and relatively affordable when we're talking about niche perfume. So this is a 50 ml bottle, and I think I bought it for around $100, and I know that you can still get it for $112, $115. So relatively affordable for niche perfume. You're definitely going to smell different than anybody else out there. You're going to smell better than, most of the things that are available at the drugstore. And so I can see why people would get Avignon or another incense from Comme des Garçons, just because it's affordable and they're easy to wear. And then by the time you're done this bottle, you're probably going to be over it anyways. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. So the idea behind the incense, this is series 3 incense. The idea behind the whole collection was to create a series of perfumes that that featured incense, and where incense is supposed to homogenize how people smell. Like in a church, you would have people from all different backgrounds and classes all together, squeezed in together into this little area. Incense and the smoke from the incense serve the purpose of homogenizing how everybody smelled and then what everybody smelled. So now you're not smelling your stinky neighbor that you might not like, you're just smelling the incense, and hopefully you're focusing on that, and that's helping ground you and give you that experience in the church that you're at, And I know in some Eastern religions, like I know in Buddhism, they think of incense, like when they burn incense, they think of the prayers going up to the heavens with the smoke, and so they're sending their prayers up. But in a lot of other places, it's just homogenizing that smell and making everybody smell the same and providing that experience, helping people ground themselves when they're in a place of worship. And so interesting that, incense is supposed to bring everybody together and make everybody smell the same, but then this series actually has a different kind of incense for each of the religions, and they picked the religions and then created incense around that religion. So I'll start by talking about Jaiselmer, just because this is the one that I have, and I've had this bottle for a couple of years. I specifically bought it because I had heard about Avignon. I'd smelled all of them, but I wanted to buy the Indian one just because I'm Indian, and this is the one that made sense to me to buy. Jaiselmer is a city in India. It's in the Rajasthan province, so it's very dry there. It's a desert, and this incense was supposed to represent Hinduism, which is one of the religions in India. I feel like this does not at all smell like an Indian incense. It doesn't smell like an incense in any Indian place of worship that I've been to. I've been to, Catholic churches, I've been to Hindu temples, I've been to Sikh temples, and this is not the kind of incense that people burn. A lot of the time, the incense is very floral, and a lot of the times the incense has sandalwood as a base, or it's just, sandalwood oil that's being burned, and it's just gorgeous and creamy and really dry. And this does not have any floral notes, and it doesn't also have sandalwood either. And instead, what they've done is combine spices along with gaiac wood to create that incense scent. So the spices in this are pepper, chili pepper, cardamom. I think the cardamom is almost like a darker cardamom, like it's not a very green cardamom. And there's cinnamon in here, and the overall, like the base note is that gaiac wood, which is kind of clovey in its character. So if you don't like cloves, and I know a lot of people don't, then this probably isn't the kind of incense that you want to smell. And if you're not looking for something that's very spicy, then again, this is not your kind of incense. Definitely don't get this if you want an Indian incense smell, because that's not what this is at all. It's, like I said, it's not sweet enough even to be an Indian incense. It is very spicy and dry, and with that gaiac wood like really, really coming through and really pushing all those notes to the top and forward and out kind of, So not very Indian, but definitely interesting. It's nice and dry, so if you're looking for something that goes nicely with rainy weather, I would definitely wear this then. And I always seem to pull this out in April, which is typically rainy season in a lot of places in Canada, definitely in Toronto where I grew up, so I feel like this would be a great April perfume, or like any time where it's spring and rainy where you are. The dryness of this contrasts really nicely with that kind of rainy weather and works nicely together. You don't want to wear this when it already is dry. I also don't think like it smells like the city Jaiselmer, because I've been there. This doesn't smell like it. If you're burning incense in India, you're trying to get rid of those foodie smells. Like, you don't want to smell cooking, right? You want to smell something that you perceive as being beautiful. And those spices, like, they're great for eating and for seasoning your food, but not necessarily for smelling while you're in a place of worship. So I don't know if any Indian people were consulted. I'm sure they traveled to the place, because why wouldn't you? I think this came out in 2002, so why wouldn't you go in 2002? But it doesn't smell like an Indian place of worship, so I don't know if like they really should have chosen a religion to match the smell. They could have just chosen a place and said that it was inspired by the place, but that's probably done so much anyways that I feel like there wasn't enough thought put into this particular one. Okay, that's just my opinion. In my opinion, as an Indian person who's been to this place. Okay, so that's Jaiselmer. Hope that makes it clear what it's about. It's supposed to be inspired by a desert landscape, and it is inspired by that, but it doesn't reflect what that area smells like. Let's talk about Avignon. I know everybody has already spoken about it. Everybody says, it takes me back to when I was young and I used to go to church. I don't feel like it smells too churchy. I've been in a lot of churches just growing up and when I was in school, but it has that nice, dry, dusty incense, and it does remind me of wooden pews and lots of wood. So that's a good thing. I think it's definitely enticing for that reason. But the dry down of this, or kind of in the undercurrent, there is kind of a freshness, an herbal kind of base. And I don't even want to call it a base. I feel like it's always there in the background. I know that chamomile is one of the listed notes, and it's not like chamomile tea. I would say it's a very green chamomile that comes out in this. Definitely a lot different than the chamomile that's in Memoir d'une Odeur by Gucci, and that one has a chamomile note, but it really does smell like chamomile tea. I feel like this is still chamomile that's growing in the grass, and you can kind of smell that there's a freshness and an herbal, maybe an herb garden, like there's a little bit of maybe thyme or mint, like something that's a little zingy that's there. And then you've got, the opening really has a lot of that dry, smoky incense. It's not too smoky and it's not too incensey. I would say that this is actually like a really easy to wear, pleasant incense perfume. You get the incense more in the middle, you get smoke as a top note, but again, in that background is that herbal freshness. And I feel like this is more like a cleansing incense perfume. So the smoke and the incense have come and they've cleaned everything up, and then what you're left with is a really beautiful freshness, and it's a fresh that's it's not clean in the way that soap is clean. It's clean in the way that being outdoors in the mountains or in a field, like that kind of clean feeling, like you've been walking and you can smell herbs and greenery around you, and it's that kind of clean. It's the clean that like fresh spring air gives you, not necessarily a soapy clean. And I think that's really cool. Like I really love that contrast, that juxtaposition of the incense and then those herbal notes that are in this perfume. And I think they work really, really nicely with each other. And it's almost like you have these transparencies. So you've got the smoke, you've got the incense, and you've got the herbal transparency, and they're all kind of layered. And because they're transparent, you can see each layer as you look through the transparency, but they're not canceling each other out and they're not competing with each other. And I think maybe that is what makes Avignon so attractive and easy to wear for people, that you do get that freshness and you're not being bogged down by this intense smoke and incense, and nobody wants that anyways. So I loved it. I loved wearing this, and thank you so much to the person that sent this to me. I hadn't smelled it in a long time, and I probably wasn't going to smell it, but I really, really enjoyed wearing it. And I definitely feel like if I come across a bottle, I might just purchase it. Again, like I said, they are very affordable and easy to find. Actually, they're available in lots of places online. Maybe not as easy to come across samples and smell in store, but if you do see it, I would say spray it and see what you think. There's other religions that are represented. I know there's Kyoto, and then there's a few others that are supposed to represent different religions and places associated with those religions. And so Avignon is a place in France. I don't know how closely it's related to Catholicism, because I feel like you might choose someplace in Italy to represent that, but they didn't. And then again, they chose Jaiselmer, and as far as I know, this is not the epicenter of the Hindu religion. Like there are monuments and stuff in Jaiselmer, but nothing that is crazy important. I know when they talk about Hinduism, that's not like a place that they talk about, to do a pilgrimage or anything. So I don't know. Those are my 2 cents. Unfortunately, we can't interview those people and see what they were thinking at that time. I will say Avignon is done by Bertrand Duchafour, and I love a lot of the perfumes that he's made. I love, he also did Traverse du Bosphore, by L'Artisan Parfumeur. That's one of my favorite perfumes that I don't own. But yeah, I can see why people love Avignon. Jaiselmer doesn't get a lot of people talking about it, but I think it's a more difficult perfume to wear. And I don't know, if you're adventurous, go for Jaiselmer definitely, because it is very, very interesting and beautiful also. Okay, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Tell me what you think if you've smelled both of these, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.